Yo, happy 4th of July. It's Independence Day, and we've got some baseball. 5-game slate. And of course, you got to bring out old Honest Abe on 4th of July. Been rocking this one for many years right here on the show, and it will not go anywhere. Matter of fact, Josh, for the perfect lineup, has a full shirt and shorts with just hot dogs on it. Little glizzy day for Josh, 4th of July. Happy holiday to you guys. Hopefully it's a good one. Hopefully you got something fun planned this weekend. But first, we've got 5 games on the early slate and a monster slate at that from a prize pool standpoint. This is as good as it gets, man. We've got huge prize, like 50K up top on multiple contests over on DK. You can't beat this. So let's make it happen. But as always, very happy to have you guys here. If you don't mind, take a single second out of your day, hit that thumbs up, atone for your, it's 4th of July, atone for your sins, subscribe to the channel, free to do. Appreciate you guys. Slate starts at 105, and then you've got a 220, a 310, a 410, and a 410. So it is spread out. There's no doubt about it. You're not going to have all of the lineups up by the time we're doing this show right now or by the time it's over. But we should be fine. We should be able to set ourselves up in a decent enough position. Steven, happy 4th to you as well. Patrick won a 920 ticket last night. Hell yeah, dude. Eric, Chris, all you guys, happy 4th of July. You too, Steven. Good to see you, man. We've got an interesting 5-gamer. The main slate for tonight, pitching is brutal. You have Spencer Strider against Baltimore, and then a pretty rough go of things. Josh and I just recorded the perfect lineup. Check that out. We recorded together this time. A little special edition of that video. That'll be up shortly. So make sure, take the 8 minutes out of your day during your festivities. You know, walk away from the party for a moment. Say, you know what? My stomach's rumbling a little bit. I'll be back in 20. Watch that. Get in some single entry lineups. Win some tournaments. Further along your journey to financial freedom with the tournament win today. Yeah, see what we did there? But no, in all seriousness, check that out. That'll be up later. Tough slate for pitching. But on this early slate, there are a couple spots that I think really stand out. Brian Woo's start got pushed back from yesterday to today. They pushed everybody back a day in the rotation. Luzardo has a spot against Cincinnati. Andrew Abbott against Philly. This Justin Hagenman one, though, I'm not sure what I'm missing there. In all honesty, I looked at our exposures and we were getting a lot of Justin Hagenman. I'm not sure when we update this if it's going to stand. I know it's at Citi Field. It's not in New York. It's not at Yankee Stadium. So maybe that plays a role in all of this, which it certainly could. You know, you'd rather it be at Citi Field than in New York. It's going to be like 84 degrees, winds blowing left to right. So, you know, nothing crazy about that one. But there's definitely an aspect of this, an element of this game that I don't love the fact that this guy who has not been good at AAA is now coming up to face the Yankees. It's a little bit concerning to me. We'll get into all of it, though. Just glad you guys could take a little bit of time out of your day on 4th of July and come join me today. Zach, yeah, baby. Like I said, we wear this every 4th of July. We also do this, right? It's just very simple. You do that, you get the socks going, you get the American flag socks. You know, you got to get the festive spirit. You know, celebrate Independence Day any way you can. And, of course, drink beers. After this show, I'm going to build some lineups, and I'm going to head over to my brother-in-law's. Fortunately, I don't know about you guys. Are you guys lucky enough to have like cool in-laws? I am. I got very lucky that way. My wife blessed me with pretty cool in-laws. You know, both of my brother-in-laws, sister-in-law, mother, father-in-law, good people. I don't dread being around them. I actually enjoy it. We have many of the same interests. One of them would be on a day like today, drinking beer, cooking some burgers, some dogs, maybe some chicken. Yeah. Steve, have some gin and juice. Now, you know, man, I'll tell you what, no real liquor for me anymore. This shirt says party like a patriot. And I used to wear this before I had kids and I could just get hammered on 4th of July. That's not the case anymore. I intend on catching a nice buzz, waking up tomorrow and feeling good. My whole philosophy these days is that the hangover feels worse than being drunk feels good. I know I'm turning into an old curmudgeon, but it's just different now, especially with kids. It's not the same as it once was, where like my wife and I could wake up when we wanted after a night of drinking. You could sit down on the couch, throw on something on Netflix, and like DoorDash something to the house. Those days are long gone, but we're still going to have a good time. And I hope you guys have a great time as well. And if you don't have kids, live it up, man. Live it up until you do, especially on 4th of July. But yep, let's do it. Yeah, Trey, I got a nice little workout this morning too. I always say, I had somebody, actually my buddy Alex Share, Adam Share, Adam, shit my money, was like, yeah, man, when I work out, it makes me not want to drink. I said, that's good. I work out so that I can feel less guilty about drinking, So let's do it. Get into this, have some fun, win some money today. Plan B Smoothies, thank you for the super chat. Member for 42 months. That's crazy, man. You're going on 4 years being a member here on the channel. That's incredible. Happy birthday, Loppy. Big effing kiss, bro. Not my birthday, but thank you, man. All right. Let's do it. Big Kev, you want to know why else I am just a cynical old asshole now is I don't like fireworks anymore. I could deal without them. I could live without them. I used to love them. Now it's like, when do they end? But nah, dude, being down there on the lake with fireworks, that's different. Here with a dog that's afraid of fireworks, it's just like, here we go again, man. But all right, so let's talk about this slate. We've got 5 games. It's a fantastic early slate, man. It's an awesome early slate for a number of reasons. But the guy that jumps off the page to me is Jesus Luzardo here. Do you guys remember a few weeks ago when we were talking, like we went and did a full out deep dive, right? Fully dissected everything about Luzardo's struggle over those 2 games where he like legitimately broke a record for most runs allowed over a stretch of innings, like over 2 consecutive starts. Horrible. And then it turns out, as we did a little bit more deep research into this guy was clearly tipping his pitches. The Philadelphia Phillies rotation, they have some elite arms in this rotation right now. Wheeler's been outstanding. I've been saying forever, Ranger Suarez, guys better than Aaron Nola, and now clearly I have been vindicated. Ranger Suarez is sick. Christopher Sanchez has been fantastic, right? All of these guys have been excellent. And Luzardo, outside of that couple game stretch where he was clearly tipping his pitches, this guy's also been great. So I just think there's a lot to like with a guy like Jesus Luzardo. You look at everything that he's been able to do this season. How are you not interested in trying to get to some Jesus Luzardo in this spot? Now, I'll tell you what, the park, whatever. It's a better park than Cincinnati is, right? I'd rather him pitching here than the old Great American Small Park. It's not even that it's going to be that hot in Philly today. For a July 4th game, this weather's more than manageable. I think there's plenty to like about Luzardo. And you're talking about a Cincinnati team. Somebody mentioned it in chat that against left-handed pitchers, they have not been impressive at all. They have a 75 WRC plus on the season. The only team worse than them, teams, plural, Pittsburgh and Kansas City at 74 and 69. They've been bad. 23.5% K rate on the active roster for Cincinnati. That puts them 12th. But that's a pretty decent K rate, right? That's a pretty decent K rate for sure. 133 ISO, 21st, 285 weighted on base average is sitting at 25th. So to me at 9K, I'm looking for Luzardo, who had he had a fine start last time out. Not great, but still another 7 strikeout game. I'm looking at for a nice bounce back game here. 9K, I think, is a more than reasonable price point. And had he not had those 2 games where he was tipping his pitches brutally, I think what we would have seen happen is that Luzardo, and you guys would probably agree with me here, I think what you would have seen happen is Luzardo would be well over 10K right now. With the way that he was pitching, every game that he had pitched, not every game, but mostly every game, the large majority, let's say, of games that this guy had pitched prior to the stretch of 2 brutal games would have put him squarely in the elite pitcher category from a pricing standpoint, right? 27% K rate, 7% walk rate, 6% barrel rate on the season, 43% ground ball rate. So that's more than okay. You look at the swinging strike rate, 13.2%, borderline elite stuff there. Yeah, so pretty much everything about a guy like Jesus Luzardo should be putting him squarely on the map for us today. You could even go further into this. And like if we isolate, I won't even isolate those 2 games, but against lefties, you realize he has a 21% swinging strike rate against lefties this year. Outrageous, right? Now, granted, you're only going to have 1 lefty in the lineup, but still almost a 13% swinging strike rate against righties with a 131 ISO. These are good numbers. We'll take that to the bank. Luzardo, to me, at least right now, my favorite pitcher, along with Brian Wu. You got that start pushed back for Wu, who would have been facing Kansas City had he gone yesterday. And now you've got him going. Now you've got him going against Pittsburgh today in Seattle at T-Mobile Park, the preeminent pitcher's park in baseball. The best one. You won't find a better one than T-Mobile Park. Also, no park has been more conducive to strikeouts than T-Mobile Park either. It's as good as it's quite simply as good as it gets. And now you've got Wu against Pittsburgh, right? Now, I'm not saying that Pittsburgh I think it's always fair that we qualify this where as bad as Pittsburgh is, they're going to be down there with the Rockies. The Rockies are still just the worst overall, but Pittsburgh's bad, man. 29th in WOBA against righties, 89 WRC plus against righties puts them at 28th, 113 ISO. That might be last. That's last. And then the only thing that really separates Colorado and Pittsburgh is that Colorado's active roster has a 27% K rate, 3% higher than the next closest team, while Pittsburgh is at 21.8%, but that's still 9th highest in the league. Dreadful baseball team from top to bottom. And now they've got an even worse park shift from PNC to T-Mobile. So how do we not look at Brian Wu here? If we wanted to take a look at just like strikeout props for these guys and pitching props, because that goes a long way in telling the full story. You're going to see Luzardo's probably 6.5 today. Yep, 6.5 with juice to the over. That's crazy. Pitching outs, let's see, 17.5 heavy juice to the over. So now you're talking like 7 strikeouts, 6 innings. What's his earned run? 2.5 with juice to the under. And now you've got Brian Wu. He's probably he's got to be 1.5. Yep, 1.5. Pitching outs has got to be 18.5. And then strikeouts, 5.5 on Wu? 6.5. The under's juice, but still. Both of those guys, to me, clearly stand out as your top options here. Do you guys have any disagreements with that? Very curious to know. Josh said, I'm off Wu today. All right. Pirates are hot over the last 2 weeks. Yeah, you know what, man? They've been better, but they're like, if you think of it like this, Josh, and feel free to view this in from whatever perspective you like, but the Pirates playing well over the last 2 weeks are still, if you took every metric, arguably the worst team against righties in the entire league. Still. Right? Like, I mean, nothing has changed. They're winning some games, but you're still talking about, they've had a few games where they've popped off for a few runs, but it's not like every day they're going out there putting up 8 runs. Also, Brian Wu is spectacular. You're going into one of the toughest matchups you could get. Brian Wu from a DFS point may not be elite in the traditional sense because, he's got a 24% K rate, not a 30% K rate, but the guy has a 4% walk rate. 20% K minus BBs, excellent. If you were to start saying like, all right, well, what's he capable of doing at home? Across the board, he's actually been a little bit better on the road, but it doesn't matter because he's still been excellent at home. So I don't really have any concerns outside of it. It's baseball and weird shit happens in baseball. But to me, I still think he's a great play. I'll tell you what, Josh, I actually like Luzardo a little bit more too. But that isn't to say that I don't like Brian Wu. I just think both of these guys are in really, really good spots. We just walked through all of the pitching props, but then if you look at, team totals, 3.5 for Pittsburgh, 3.9 for Cincinnati. No other teams are really close, right? 4.4 for Seattle against Bailey Falter. Again, he gets the advantage of pitching at T-Mobile as well. Phillies at 4.7 against Andrew Abbott. Steven, they make horror movies about people like my in-laws. That sucks, man. I genuinely mean that. It sucks because then you have to be around them sometimes. Justin Hageman, we got to spend some time here, right? Are we on board with getting to exposure to him at 5,500? He's being called up to make a spot start. I was looking through his AAA game logs before I started this show, and I'd be lying to you if I told you that I was impressed with really anything. You look at this recently, 4 innings, 3 earned, 5 Ks, 4 2/3, 3 earned, 2 Ks, 2 2/3 with 1 K, 5 innings, 6 strikeouts, 2 earned. We'd take that. 4 1/3, no earned, 6 Ks. I guess you could say respectable numbers, but there's nothing that you look at and you're like, man, this guy could really go out there today and do damage against the Yankees. Maybe it's a little surprising they only have a 4.9 run implied total. But even at the AAA level, I don't have any advanced metrics I'm pulling up here, but in 42 innings, he has a 6.21 ERA this year. I don't love that at all. We're getting to a lot in the Sims. I still think that's going to change. I can rerun the Sims here. See if we've had an update. Have we had any updates? Yes, we actually just got an update. So for those of you Sims users out there using the tools, single lineup Sims, make sure to either, refresh the single lineup Sim or go and rerun one in the contest generator and then sim it in the main Sim as well. Yeah. Let's see what we get here. So we're running the early one more time. Remember we did this the other day and it worked out great for us. One of you guys asked if we could rerun it for the early slate, I think on Wednesday, and that put us in a really good spot. Rants, Cubs are going to win the early slate. Against who? Michaelis? I could see it. Miles Michaelis is one of those guys that's a thorn in our side. If you roster him, he's typically not good. If you stack against him, he's good enough to make your stack, irrelevant. So I typically am not in love with that. But stack score for the Cubs today, top 4 out of 10. Top stack probability, second. 5.7 implied total. So there you go. Not a ton of ownership there, but that would also be because their value score is typically low. One of the more pricey teams that we get from day to day. Let's see if anything has changed here on our pitching exposure. Because I'm telling you, man, I would be shocked if that Hageman wasn't just a mess up within the projections when we ran it and has since been fixed. Yep. Okay. So 36% at 5,500 isn't crazy, but this looks a lot more like it. Boatloads of Jesus Luzardo. By the way, I ran this exactly the way I did the first time. Factory settings, Sims. Ton of Jesus Luzardo. Even at his ownership, we are getting positively leveraged there at 29%. Brian Wu, we're getting close to 50. Hageman, 36. And then a little bit of Andrew Abbott. I'm not opposed to that. Do I think Andrew Abbott should be our priority at pitcher on this slate? No, because I genuinely think despite their ownership, Luzardo and Brian Wu look really good, and we can get different with the way we stack teams. Also, I would say that the Hageman exposure we're getting makes us a lot different at, getting about a third of our lineups going to him. But Abbott has been good. 24% K rate, doesn't walk a lot of guys. There's a lot of positive factors with a guy like this. The one thing I don't love is that he's got a pretty significant fly ball. He's a pretty significant fly ball pitcher. I mean, on the season, 50% fly ball pitcher for his career. Philly team that is, known for being kind of a feast or famine baseball team on offense. When they're hitting home runs, they're hitting home runs. And to be fair to somebody like Andrew Abbott, only 1.01 home runs per 9 this year. And he pitches inside of a park that is very friendly for homers if you're opposing hitters. So I think it's worth at least giving him credit there. He hasn't given up much hard contact at all, only 25%. So that's solid. But there is something about this Philly team that I think, if you think of it like this, makes playing a Jesus Luzardo at 9K more interesting and more appealing than a Andrew Abbott against Philly at 9,300. Like, I think Jesus Luzardo is underpriced. And I'll say it again. I think Jesus Luzardo's salary is a direct result of those couple of games, that pair of games he had where he got annihilated. Steve said, I like Abbott, just not today in Philly. I'll go one further, Steve. It's not even just that it's in Philly. It's the fact that you're paying the same price as you would more for Luzardo, and the same basically for Brian Wu. So when you look at this top down from the salaries, you've got Wu, Abbott, and Luzardo. As good of a pitcher as Andrew Abbott is it worth prioritizing him over those guys? If Andrew Abbott was 8K today, or like Zach Littell's price at 8,300, I think we'd be getting a whole lot more of him. But by playing Andrew Abbott, that means you have to forego one of Luzardo and Wu. Maybe you end up with neither of them in that lineup because you're going to like a Justin Hagenman or something. Now, I think it's also fair to say that there are a few guys today that just simply don't look good. Hey, Ron, happy 4th, brother. There's no weather to be worried about here, right? 81 in Philly, winds blowing in at 5. 85 in Chicago, winds blowing out to left at 9. That's somewhat appealing. One of the reasons, too, that when you look at the team totals, you get a 5-7 for the Cubs against Miles Michaelis. And a 5-1 for St. Louis against Colin Rea. So that could definitely favor hitters in that game. I don't intend on getting to either of those guys, right? I don't think you guys are going to be getting to boatloads of them either. 9.5 run total, minus 117 on the over. Mets is 84, winds blowing to right at 9. And then, you're not worried about T-Mobile Park. And the only other one is Minnesota. That is 93 degrees. Winds, weird one here. Winds blowing to left at 16 miles per hour. So left to right, 93 degree temperatures. What's the game total there? 10. Whoa. 10 run total. So I can't wait to look at our stacks. 10 run total in that game is significant. You've got an 8 in the Cincinnati Philly game. Philly's a minus 156 favorite. 9.5 in St. Louis Cubs. Cubs minus 138 favorite. 9.5 Yankees Mets minus 131 favorite are the Mets. God, how far Marcus Stroman has fallen. A dog against Justin Hageman. 10 with this Minnesota game, and then 7 between the Mariners and Pirates. Crazy stuff. Crazy. So that's what we have. One more look at our pitching exposures. And is it any surprise we're not getting to Falter, I think I'd actually prefer him over some of these other guys we're not getting to. Rhea, no interest in getting there. Stroman's a dog against Hageman in a 9.5 total game at Citi Field. Chris Paddock, 10-run total game against the lefty, against the Tampa team that can actually do some damage against lefties. 93 degrees at that park. Zach Littell, again, no interest there. We're getting 4%. I'm perfect. Now I actually understand why we'd get to Justin Hageman. Now it makes sense. See, when we reverse engineer this type of stuff, it starts to all come into focus. Why would we get Justin Hageman at 36%? Well, because all of these other guys in their respective matchups should probably be the same damn price. Like, why would I want to pay 76 for Paddock when you could just close your eyes and pray with Hageman at 55? Same thing for Colin Ray at 65. I'd argue same thing for Zach Littell. Guys, look at the totals in these games. Look at the implied totals. Outside of this Luzardo and Wu spot, and to be fair, Seattle against Falter, 4-7 for Philly, 4-9 for the Yankees, 5-1 for St. Louis, 5-2 for the Mets, 5-3 for Minnesota, 5-4 for Tampa, and 5-7 for the Cubs. Remarkable. Steve, how can we have any trust in this Mets pitcher? Just a price play. I get that. No, dude, I literally just said that, Steve. Look at the totals that I have on the screen right now. This is not about trust. It's about faith. You know, faith that the Sims are putting us in an opportune position, which I always have faith that they will. And that all of these other pitchers, why would you want to pay for them when you could just basically get the same matchup at 5,500? You know, look at it like that, then everything changes. Time to take a look at our stacks. And of course, before we do, guys, number one, if you join late, or I'll say it again if you've been here, happy 4th of July. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and a great holiday, and we enjoy this. And set aside all the other bullshit and strife, if not just for a day, and try to have a good day. Also, today is the last day to grab 50% off any weekly or monthly subscription that you want. Literally, any weekly or monthly subscription that you want is 100% across the board, 50% off. So that means if you wanted Sims Max weekly or Sims Core weekly, or you wanted Sims Max All Access weekly or monthly, or Core All Access monthly, every single sport, I don't know if we've ever done this before. 50% off everything for a week or a month. So if you use the link, all you have to do, use the link in the description, right? The first one, join Stokastic MLB, click that, right? Use the link in the description, and when you check out, use code USA, and anything is 50% off. Even if you're like, hey, I don't know if I want to, check. When you click the link, you can see all of the packages, but you've got 50% off every single weekly or monthly subscription, no matter what the price is, no matter if it's never been discounted in the past. All of them are 50% off. Today is the last day. I don't know if we'll run something like this again. If we do, it's certainly not going to be until like NFL season or something like that. So if you're looking to dive in, you love playing DFS, and you're looking to get an advantageous spot with all of the tools we have, and join all of our, these are just recent. All of these Stokastic boys atop the leaderboards with the monster wins, whether it's the mini max, the main contests, you name it. These avatars have been everywhere this season, and for good reason. The Sims are putting in work. So use USA after clicking that link in the description and selecting whatever package you want. USA at checkout. And until the end of today, 50% off whatever you want. See you guys over there, and make sure to join the Discord. All right, let's go into our stacks and see what we've got here. I'm excited to see where we end up. Here we go. Are we spread out? St. Louis against Colin Rea. I actually kind of love that, because if I looked at this earlier, ownership and stack score, ownership's up, but value score on St. Louis is through the roof. Stack score is number 1 on the entire slate. Checks out. Yeah, they're getting owned, but if you look at ownership among all of these teams, really, nobody stands out. So I don't think we have to worry too much about ownership today, right? Minnesota against Zach Littell. Where are they getting owned in the top stacks tool? By the way, with any of our MLB subs, you're not just getting the sims and the contest generator, late swap, post-contest sim, single lineup sim for those of you single lineup players, but you also get the top stacks tool, the top pitchers, top hitters tool. Everything is included, right? So let's see. Minnesota, ownership is up there. Top stack is 4th, but value score is number 1. So that's going to put them up there for us. And also, we're getting positively leveraged on Luzardo. Even though he's popular, we're getting a boatload and some Hagenman. So that's where some of our leverage is going to come in at. Tampa Bay looks like between 3, 4, and 5-man stacks, you're talking around 23, 24% ownership or exposure. Zach said, hey, Zach, I took Wu, Luzardo, and St. Louis and Seattle. Okay. We're not getting to a lot of Seattle, but I don't think you're crazy with that against Bailey Falter. Against the lefty, you got some power righties in that lineup. Who else do we have? Chicago against Miles Michaelis. Some Pittsburgh against Wu. That's just a pure leverage spot there. Let's go into our lineups, look at exposure caps, and see what our stack exposure points to. Stack exposure, 31% St. Louis. We're very spread out here, and I actually love that. 31% St. Louis if you're favoriting 150 lineups, 25% the first in the contest or in the pre-contest sim, 26% Minnesota, 24% Tampa, 23% Chicago, 13 Pittsburgh, 11 Philly. I like getting a little bit of Philly there. 6% Mets against Stroman. 6% Seattle. The team we're not getting much of at all, matter of fact, is the Yankees against Hagenman. Surprising. And no surprise here, Cincinnati against Jesus Luzardo. What do some of our actual lineups look like? This is always fun to look at. Let me zoom in for you guys so you can see them with me. Abbott Luzardo is your highest simmed ROI lineup right now. That doesn't mean we're going to get a lot of Abbott. It just means that this specific lineup, when we ran, like 50,000, 60,000 simulations, had the highest simmed ROI. So it performed best in the sims. Abbott, Luzardo, Pittsburgh, 5-3. Interesting. Yeah, because no one's getting to that. I mean, if you look at the ownership sum there, what's the highest ownership sum on this slate? 260. And that one has 122. So very, very contrarian type build. You know, if you're playing one lineup, I wouldn't recommend playing that. But if you're playing a bunch, having something like that in your portfolio of lineups always makes sense. Why not give yourself a few extra outs? Luzardo, Hagenman, Chicago, Pittsburgh, 4-4. And again, we're not getting to a lot of Pittsburgh, but some of them are going to rise to the top. Because within these sims, when Pittsburgh does do well, you're just knocking off like everybody. Nobody's playing Pittsburgh. And a lot of people are playing Brian Wu. So if you think of it like that, it's sensible. Here's a 4-2 Chicago, Minnesota with Luzardo and Hagenman. Luzardo, Hagenman. Do we have any Luzardo Wu lineups? That's what I want to see. Here's what we can do. Let's go to filter. And we want lineups contain Luzardo. And we want to add a filter here. We want end lineups contain woo. Let's see if we have any. Because sometimes it's not just about your individual exposures. It's about, hey, does this work together? We could be getting a lot of both of these guys, but not a lot of them together. And it looks like we still are getting a decent amount of these guys together. Yep. So here's your highest simmed ROI Brian Wu and Luzardo lineup. It is Brian Wu and Luzardo with a 5-3 St. Louis Tampa stack. That is sweet. 50,000 on the nose. Another one at 50,000 on the nose makes sense. These guys are taking up what, 18,300 just in pitcher salary. Wu and Luzardo with a 4-3 Tampa, Minnesota. 3-3 Minnesota St. Louis with Brian Wu and Luzardo. 5-3 Minnesota Cubs with Wu and Luzardo. Tampa, Minnesota, St. Louis Yankees. All right. So I'll tell you what, these lineups actually look really good. And while you're getting good lineups, the one thing to consider is that you look at the ownership sum compared to some of those other contrarian builds. These right here are clearly going to be chalky. Clearly going to be chalky. Now, ownership sum only tells you some of the story. If you're going with odd one-offs in these spots, you can get a little bit different, but it is worth considering that this is going to be a chalky build. And if Wu and Luzardo don't both have wildly good performances, and one or two of these other guys, cheaper pitchers, sneak in as, you know, let's say comparable options or comparable fantasy production, then you're going to see a lot of those Wu lineups and Luzardo lineups just wiped out. So that's why we're always going to see a lot of these, you know, Luzardo with another cheap pitcher, Luzardo with the Hagenman or with any of these other guys. That's why. And that's why we're getting the Sim Hagenman. Because the Sims are clearly identifying that the chalkiness of those Wu and Luzardo lineups, we don't want to have like 100% of that today. That's Marvin said it. Yeah, I didn't see that, but Marvin, exactly. Those lineups are chalky. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't play any of them, right? You don't want to have 0 Wu and Luzardo lineups. If the Sims are identifying them as positive ROI and some of the Simmed ROI and some of them very high, they're still good lineups. There's definitely still good lineups. Here's our individual exposures as well. Take a look at outfield. Kyle Tucker, Chandler Simpson, Willie Castro, Brendan Donovan, Alec Burleson, Matt Wallner. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing here? A lot of times on these smaller slates, you'll see 1 or 2 teams that occupy all of the exposure atop these positions. In the outfield, look at that. You have Cubs, Tampa, Minnesota, St. Louis. 1, 2, 3, 4 highest exposed guys, all from different teams. That should tell you a lot. That there isn't one spot that you should be honing in on as your only spot. Hey, by the way, if you guys are watching this now and you jumped in late, because I see the concurrence going up, number one, do your boy a solid on 4th of July. Hit that thumbs up. Let's see if we can ramp this north of 100. Appreciate you. Subscribe too if you enjoy this content. We're at 86. We could definitely clear 100 here. Thanks in advance. We will get there. But number 2, don't forget, it's a live show. You're still going to have over an hour when this ends until the slate locks. You can go back and just start it from the beginning, right? If you missed some of it, you can still just go right back and watch it from the beginning. Okay. So some people are like, damn, I missed it. I see it all the time. I'm late. I guess there's always tomorrow. It's like, nah, dude, there's right now. Just go back and watch it, while it's still live, start from the beginning, or when it's over, if you're coming in, you're going to have it from the beginning. This is like a quasi live before lock, but we're still going to have an hour and 15 minutes by the time the show's over to get to get in and watch it. You'll have plenty of time while you build your lineups. But yeah, I wouldn't look at this as like, I need to get all of this stack. Maybe you like one stack more than the other, but if you're playing even 20 lineups or 10, I think it's probably a mistake, and the Sims would suggest the same, to only go to one team heavily. And you look at the top stack probability, guys, look at this. This is nuts. You have 6 teams between 10 and 15%. Philly and Seattle and St. Louis and Pittsburgh, unsurprisingly, down there at the bottom. But that means there are 6 other pitchers, 6 other teams that are really close to each other. Really close. And in ownership, all 6 of these teams are within 10 and 14% of each other. There's simply not enough to differentiate them to say, you know what, I know better than Vegas. I know better than simulations, right? To me, you can take a stand if you want. Obviously, that is 100% your call, and I support it. It is 4th of July. We are a free country, by the way. At least that's what they tell us. But from a DFS standpoint, we certainly are. Do what you want. But I think there are just too many good spots here for us to dig our heels in, right? Like team totals, 5-7, 5-4, 5-3, 5-2, 5-1, 4-9, 4-7. 7 teams, 4-7 and higher. It's wild. So when I see all these different teams where our exposure is going, look at this. Mason wins St. Louis, Kim's, Tampa Bay, Correa, Minnesota, Lindor, Mets, Swanson, Cubs, Trey Turner, Philly. That is 6 different teams with guys between 10 and 20% exposure. What does that tell you? Should tell you a lot. Royce Lewis, Nolan Gorman, Caminero, Hayes, Vientos, Bohm, Willie Castro, Donovan, Brandon Lau, Minnesota, St. Louis, Tampa Bay, Nico Horner, Cubs. Sims are saying there are some really good spots everywhere today, except pitching, aside from a couple guys. Wilson Contreras, Bryce Harper's back in the mix. We're getting 14% of him, but nobody on a 5-game slate at more than 18% at first base. Incredible. Ryan Jeffers, 30%. There you go. Pedro Pages, a 19%, or Pages, Pajes, Pages, Carson Kelly, Real Muto. There you go. There you go. This isn't Paje, Doug, Pedro Paje. Point being, this slate gives us a million options, and on a 5-gamer, you typically don't see it. So, Kaiser University Esports Sarasota, home runs win slates. Why doesn't the Sims factor wind in Wrigley? Mutes power in a meaningful way. I'll say this tactfully because it's a fair question. Of course, it factors in wind, but it doesn't factor wind in the traditional sense. Okay, our projections don't have a window meter that is placed in every park or that evaluates this and goes into projections. You know what does factor wind in to everything? Vegas totals, right? Vegas totals. And do you know how all projections are heavily derived? Vegas totals. So if a team's implied total or a team total is higher or lower based on wind, then it's going to be heavily factored into the projections. So if you think of it as wind is baked into the game totals and all of the derivatives, the team totals, and then all of the totals are baked into the projections, then yes, of course, wind and weather is heavily factored into everything the Sims do. Everything. But if you're talking about wind muting power in a meaningful way, I would highly suggest that instead of talking about home runs and just factoring in what you're seeing on a screen from a wind perspective, you should be looking about the totals or at the totals in these games. And right now, this is a 9.5 run total. And in Chicago, with juice on the over 9.5. 9.5 run total at Wrigley Field may not be 20 mile per hour winds blowing out with an 11 run total, But a 9.5 run total would not at all suggest that the wind is going to mute power significantly here. Both teams have 4.5 run totals juiced to the over. So if you look at it through that lens, then it's far different. Kaiser, if you're saying that, okay, I don't disagree with you there. There's runs to be had here. Singles and sacrifice flies don't win slates, just my take. Yeah, but you're not going to see the total up. All right, let me put it to you like this. You're not going to see the game total in a spot like this go higher, and then Chicago hitters home run props with longer odds. Like, there's just no world where you're going to see the run total in a game come up, but the home run props have longer odds. It's not going to happen, right? So, I mean, you're going to get guys that have very similar or better home run props than they typically would. Gorman's at plus 320 on DK. Mason Wynn 425. Like, none of these guys are far off from where they've been. If anything, you're seeing shorter odds than you typically would given these conditions. Cubs also have above average steals upside. Yeah, they certainly do. And steals go overlooked a lot. But anyway, those are your exposures. Those are your pitching exposures. Those are our stack exposures. See if we actually have any plus EV home run props going right now in the portfolio EV tool and the live odds tool. Oh, by the way, guys, I mentioned you've got 50% off, right? Any subscription for weekly or monthly for any DFS package. That includes Sims All Access. That includes Sims Max. That includes Core All Access, anything. Literally any weekly or monthly package for DFS is 50% off through the end of today. All you have to do, the only thing that's required of you is to use promo code USA at checkout when you click that first link that I have in the description on this video. It's over today. This is the last day. We don't ever run promos like this for Max or All Access, literally never. But even if you just wanted Core, it is absolutely the best sale we've run in a long time. But I would be remiss to not let you guys know that on Portfolio EV, if you're into sports betting or you've considered it or you wanted to try it in the past, 75% off any week or month with that same promo code USA. So you could double up here, get massive discounts on a week of both, a month of both, whatever you want to do. But these tools have been fantastic, man. Truly fantastic. And we'd love for you to check them out, because when you go in and simply build your portfolios out, you know what happens? You get fed only plus EV bets with positive historical ROI that you can now jam in as much as you possibly want and get as many bets per day. Not only that, but you're talking about the mass entry feature that allows for you to take 20 bets at a time, instantly add them into your bet slip, one click, boom, they're in. The parlay generator that generates dozens of parlays within single seconds. And all of these props that pop up based on your own criteria from what you've found in the tools to have been historically profitable. Use code USA at oddshopper.com or use that link down there, and you've got 75% off any week or any month that you want. So I'll leave you with this. Do we have some home run props? Yes, we do. Anthony Volpe against Hagenman. 17 OS rating, 23% expected value here. Look at this. Massive outlier spot on DraftKings and Onyx, which share the same odds. Plus 950 where FanDuel has it at 830. Other books at plus 600. Lock Anthony Volpe, and I'm going to do that the moment this show is over. Austin Wells, it appears DraftKings has heavily mispriced these Yankee home runs today. 5-1. Plus 443 on a sharp book like Penny. 425. Got a lot of hits. Hits are earned run props. Here you go. Under 2.5 on Abbott looks good on Fanatics as well. It's another solid one. Okay, I'm telling you, you didn't miss it, dude. Just go back and start from the beginning. Start from the beginning. K. McD. You didn't miss anything. Wilson. Oh, here's a good one. Before you guys go, Wilson Contreras homers. DraftKings, man, they're pricing everything wildly. Way off from FanDuel, way off from MGM and all of these other books. And we know that DraftKings has been a historically soft book in this market. You know how I know? Go into the portfolio lab. What happens when you look how home runs have performed over the last 300? There you go. Portfolio EV, 75% off, USA. Let's see. How do DraftKings home runs perform within the portfolio over the last 365 days? If I had to guess, actually I know, very, very solid 8.66 ROI. With compounding returns, that's massive. Click on this, DraftKings. Average ROI is 1% across every single market in MLB, but 8.6% in home runs. Massive. Absolutely massive. So yeah, home runs there within this lab. Big time stuff. Anyway, guys, Gary just signed up using the code. Thanks, Lavi. You got it, brother. Like I said, Portfolio EV 75% off. Ends today. Stokastic, any DFS package, 50% off. Can't give too much away at Stokastic. These tools, both sites are just too good. USA with the link below for both of those, 50% off. Both of them over today. Guys, have a great 4th of July. Stay safe. Enjoy yourselves. Indulge in your favorite beverages, or maybe for some of you, your favorite smoke. But we'll see you back here on Monday. Have a fun weekend, and let's take down something today. Bye-bye.